One of the great ironies of the information age is that while we've got more and more data, we actually are measuring the economy more poorly than we did before. Well, why is that? Because our main statistical agencies are focused on GDP and its related metrics like productivity. And all of them measure how much we buy and sell in the economy. But so much of the value in the economy comes from things that we don't have to pay for, not just household production and health, but also increasingly a lot of digital goods. Wikipedia, Facebook, Google searches, email, maps. In most cases, consumers don't pay anything for these goods and services. And if something has a zero price in the economy, its contribution to GDP, in most cases, is essentially zero. That means we're not measuring those benefits. At the Stanford Digital Economy Lab, we're focusing on a new way of measuring the economy. We call it GDP-B, which measures the benefits, that's the B, of these goods and services, not just the costs. Going forward, if we're going to have a real understanding of our economy, especially the digital economy, we need to understand the benefits as well as the costs.
So that's another area I've done quite a bit of research on, actually, is these free goods like Wikipedia, Facebook, Twitter, Zoom. We're actually doing this in person, but almost everything else I do these days is online. The interesting thing about all those is most of them have a price of zero. You know, what do you pay for Wikipedia? Maybe like a little bit for the electrons to come to your house. It's basically zero, right?
Yeah. Take a small pause and say, I donate to Wikipedia often. You should too, because that
good
makes
for you. Yeah. So, but what does that mean for GDP? GDP is based on the price and quantity of all the goods, things bought and sold. If something has zero price, you know how much it contributes to GDP? To a first approximation, zero. Mm-hmm. So these digital goods that we're getting more and more of, we're spending more and more hours a day consuming stuff off of screens, little screens, big screens. That doesn't get priced into GDP. It's like they don't exist. That doesn't mean they don't create value. I get a lot of value from watching cat videos and reading Wikipedia articles and listening to podcasts, even if I don't pay for them. So we've got a mismatch there. Now, in fairness, economists, since Simon Kuznets invented GDP and productivity, all those statistics back in the 1930s, he in fact said, this is not a measure of well-being, this is not a measure of welfare, it's a measure of production. But almost everybody has kind of forgotten that he said that, and they just use it. It's like, how well off are we? Well, what was GDP last year? It was 2.3% growth or whatever. That is how much physical production, but it's not the value we're getting. We need a new set of statistics, and I'm working with some colleagues, Avi Collis and others, to develop something we call GDP-B. GDP-B measures the benefits you get, not the cost. If you get benefit from Zoom or Wikipedia or Facebook, then that gets counted in GDP-B, even if you pay zero for it. So, back to your original point, I think there is a lot of gain over the past decade in these digital goods that doesn't show up in GDP, doesn't show up in productivity. By the way, productivity is just defined as GDP divided by hours worked. So if you mismeasure GDP, you mismeasure productivity by the exact same amount. That's something we need to fix. I'm working with the statistical agencies to come up with a new set of metrics. And over the coming years, I think we'll see. We're not going to do away with GDP. It's very useful, but we'll see a parallel set of accounts that measure the benefits.
How difficult is it to get that B in the GDP-B?
It's pretty hard. I mean, one of the reasons it hasn't been done before is that you can measure at the cash register what people pay for stuff, but how do you measure what they would have paid, like what the value is? That's a lot harder. How much is Wikipedia worth to you? That's what we have to answer. And to do that, what we do is we can use online experiments. We do massive online choice experiments. We ask hundreds of thousands, now millions of people to do lots of sort of A/B tests. How much would I have to pay you to give up Wikipedia for a month? Mm-hmm. How much would I have to pay you to stop using your phone? And in some cases, it's hypothetical. In other cases, we actually enforce it, which is kind of expensive. Like we pay somebody $30 to stop using Facebook, and we see if they'll do it. And some people will give it up for $10. Some people won't give it up even if you give them $100.
That's awesome.
And then you get a whole demand curve. You get to see what all the different prices are and how much value different people get. And not surprisingly, different people have different values. We find that women tend to value Facebook more than men. Old people tend to value it a little bit more than young people. That was interesting. I think young people maybe know about other networks that I don't know the name of that are better than Facebook. And so you get to see these patterns, but every person's individual. And then if you add up all those numbers, you start getting an estimate of the value.